everyone. Welcome to the half-year conference for Impact. I suggest we wait 5 additional minutes. We have people who are enrolled to participate. Some have already logged in and some are still attempting to log in. So please, let's wait 5 additional minutes for the rest of participants to join us. For your patience, I think we can begin. I am the CEO of Impact. I am joined by Mr. Bistriceanu, the CFO, Mr. Câmpeanu, and Mr. Mihai Ionescu, consultant. Thank you for your participation. First off, in terms of the agenda, I'm going to do an overview of the first half of the year. Then I'm going to allow Claudiu to detail the financial results. And then at the end of the meeting, we will be waiting for your questions. So briefly, this half year that we have concluded was full of challenges in terms of the industry and for us personally. There were aggravating factors that came in addition to the macroeconomical situation that you all know, and something relevant for our industry related to the decrease of the threshold for dwellings, 5% from 140 to 120. So there was a major impact caused by the exponential increase of interest. This was not expected, and it influenced crediting and lending. As you know, our projects that are mass market scale projects are influenced in a decisive manner by this factor, in light of the fact that over 70% of our clients acquire by means of mortgages and mortgage loans. So this was the second aspect. Another specific for Impact was another issue, the closing of the Patul Moldovei road. This influenced the sales in Greenfield. So these are the factors that, of course, influenced our results, and we are going to discuss in detail about this impact. However, we still succeeded in maintaining a good activity. 403 units pre-sold with a market value of 46.2 million euro. This will be capitalized in the following period. We have a huge inventory value, 155 million euro. We are trying to increase the sales cycle despite market and economic conditions, and we have undertaken measures in this regard. We have the development part, over 1,600 units with building permits issued, and 182 are undergoing construction phases. As I stated, we managed to ensure a good liquidity and indebtedness of under 30% as per the target. The assets as at the 30th of June amassed 364 million euro as per the appropriate standards, and we still hold 71 hectares of land. You know, all of our developments are conducted on land plots owned by the company, so we have no issues with the landowners. We are a developer who has a classic business model. This would be an overview for the first half of the year. Now I'm going to ask Claudiu to present the financial figures. Then we're going to talk about some perspectives, and then we are going to answer your questions. Thank you. Hello. The market has decreased by 27% in the first half of the year as compared to the same period of the previous year. And the mortgage market had, this is the same comparison, the first half of 2023 compared to the first half of 2022. And what concerns us, we sold 78 units in the first half of the year, a decrease as compared to the first half of the previous year. In this difficult market context, we increased by 6% in Băneasa and 7% in Expoziției, and the EBITDA margin increased as well in light of the value increase and optimization of expenses. In what concerns our balance sheet position, we had a 24 increase in terms of, in what concerns Boreal, we had infrastructure works in Boreal Plus. We have an issuance used for funding own projects. We have three products on Autostrada Soarelui, one on DN1 and one in Băicoi. We had a an upgrade work in Cetei in Brașov. As a result of the recovery of the VAT from the state, we had an increase of 4% in what concerns official receivables. For the first half of the year, we had a decrease, an increase in terms. Once we concluded Greenfield Băneasa, we had a decrease of 13% in terms of commercial debt, and indebtedness increased to 29%, but we are under our 30% target. Here I presented the total adjusted assets as per EPRA standards. It reached 364 million euros, and net assets calculated according to EPRA standards is 260 million euro. We have a trapped value that is not included in the reported statements, 74 million euro difference between assets as per IFRS and assets as per EPRA standards. And we are trying to align the EPRA standards with the IFRS standards in order to include and cover this value as much as possible in financial statements. In our land bank, we have approximately 86 hectares, 176 hectares. As per EPRA value, market value is 160 million as per June 30th, 2023. As of June 30th, out of 954, we have a sale. So, for example, in Băneasa, we are going to close the project next month, and in Luxuria Expoziției, we reached an 80% in terms of sales and pre-sales. So we have construction started, 982. We have a start of 982 construction started, and we want to start construction in another series of apartments as well.
We'll come back with the perspectives for the following 12 months. We obtained the building permit for Copol. It took a long time, a lot more than we estimated, due to factors that were not under our reach. We had this delay. We're reviewing the budget and the funding for this project, and we hope to announce a timeline. It will have NSEP standards, and we hope to start building next year. We are approving Barbu Văcărescu, Area Verdi upscale project on value of over 350 million euro. We finished the concept, and we are going through the approval stage. We should obtain in the spring the building permit. We on Greenfield Băneasa, we have 590 units of dwellings from the city hall. To finance these developments, we will issue bonds. As you know, in the GSM, there was also a share increase approved. Our projects continue to be compliant to ESG. All NSEP and ZEB standards voluntarily. In Greenfield Băneasa, this semester, we optimized Plaza. We opened it at the beginning of the year. It's the Greenfield that has neighborhood stores. So we have over 80% occupied spaces, commercial spaces. We continue to ensure what we promised already. So we are talking about the church in the area. This was approved. So this will finalize the services for Greenfield Băneasa. We believe that we will sell as much as we can from the inventory. We have in Boreal an upward trend. The project is finalized, demand is growing, and the pre-sales will increase. we also want to launch the Area Verde project. If you have any questions, we will start answering your questions. Can you please answer here? It's about some charts. Mr. Morano would like charts to see an optimal capital structure. Can you please be more specific to understand that it's the effective cost and correlated with the working capital? The optimal structure is defined because we have a limit in the debtors degree to start new projects. We need to have our own equity side. That's why we issue financial instruments. We have a target of 1,200 apartments permanently in production to be able to ensure the inventory for the next couple of years. If we're looking at the cash flow items, yes, we will also include in the future. And so it's about the interest rate cost, of course, that cannot be annulled via cash management, so that the financial result to be positive. The indicators for the internal rate of return, the risks. So we have the EVA, and yes, we will include in the future. We will compute it at project level, not at the level of the company, and we will present them in the following video conference. In the GSM, we want to adopt the electronic voting system, and we want to implement it by the next GSM meeting. Sebastian, about bonds. The bonds, will they be mortgaged back? What maturities there will be? So we want them 5-year maturity for the bonds. We also had mortgage-backed securities on lands, and we also have issues without mortgages. We want to go forward in parallel with this mix of bonds, backed or non-backed, that we want part of them to be listed on the Bucharest Stock Exchange. Yes, and actually the coupon will be paid at maturity. If you have any other questions, there's another question. The business model, it entails only building and selling properties, or do you want to develop also the rent? Since the spring, we noticed the interest in the rent, and we are developing this business line. We want to have 15% built to rent in each project. We want even more. The market will entice more, but it's also cash flow effort. And we see the demand from specialized investors, and this would be more rewarding for us. In order to develop this build to rent, we launched the Spazio company, which does facility and property management. We already have units that are up for rent, and in Luxuria, in Greenfield, and in Boreal. So yes, is the answer. We want to develop this business line, but we need to consider, when we do this effort, our main goal is to sell these units to the renters. We are building and we are selling, but we will use this renting tendency to have packages of apartments that are rented with the purpose of later being sold. How do we look at demand in the latest months, and what expectations you have? Demand is very high. The problem is with solvable demand that was affected by the interest rates cost. We believe that in the next year, when we'll see a cooling down and a stabilization of the interest rate, we will see recovery in a year. Demand is there. And as a guideline, in Romania, in the past 30 years, 1.5 million units were built, and we have an inventory of 10 million units throughout the country. So we have an old inventory. So those who were prior to 77, as you know, have reached their end of the life cycle, and we have new standards. So we believe demand will be very high in the next 10 years, and the solvable demand will come, and also the access to financing will be restored.
What is the project that is performing the best? That's another question. We believe all of our projects are performing great. Of course, if we analyze strictly the figures that we presented, Luxuria remains the highest margin that we have in terms of costs, because the costs reflect the periods from a couple of years ago, yet the prices, the sale prices reflect the current reality. As a trend in the market, we are selling finalized projects. The market has a lot of finalized projects. It's difficult to sell planned projects. And of course, we want to target people who have available funds and don't need lending. And what concerns costs for construction materials, did you observe a decrease? No, we actually conducted an analysis in this regard. In regards to COPO, in the past 6 months, we witnessed an increase of almost 5% in terms of construction materials and handiwork. So for the following period, in terms of our expectations, we don't believe that the cost will decrease. We all have to understand that the impact of inflation is finally horizontal in terms of effects for all of our subcontractors. So material producers are affected as well as everyone else by the current situation, and this interest will be reflected in the price of raw materials in the following periods and in pre-costs as well. In average, what percentage of the properties is purchased by means of loans? We mentioned at the beginning, it's a 70% average. So we are quite dependent on mortgage lending. And that's why we had a decrease in this first half of the year. Another question, I saw that you have a land plot in Oradea, but it's not included in the expansion strategy. Yes, we have a history in Oradea. We try to develop it, but it's a land plot that we are going to dispose in the following period. We're going to use it. It's not something, so we decided based on issues that do not relate to our plans to do, we decided not to continue the expansion in Oradea, the development in Oradea. In terms of expansion, we have a growth strategy based on 3 pillars. One relates to territorial expansion and diversification of products and services. As you saw, we launched the Plaza Mall in Greenfield. Now we are going to inaugurate a photovoltaic park. So everything supports the final sale of products. Another space in which we expanded the services area, such as property and facility management. We are targeting Timișoara, Brașov, and Cluj. Based on our analysis, we decided to start in Iași, in the northern area, and then we're going to move towards the western area. So that would be a first option in terms of our future plans. Historically speaking, we had good results there. We are unfortunately under litigation with the City Hall, 132 million RON claim. And we have to see how the situation will develop in Timișoara in light of this litigation and the current situation in the near future. Another question, we already answered in terms of the road. We want to sell, we want to dispose a series of assets that we cannot capitalize or on which we cannot build in order to ensure, of course, liquidity and availability for our new projects. Another question, near cities where you are present, Timișoara, Cluj, Brașov, do you want to access other countries? Ploiești, Craiova, Pitești, Bacău. Impact historically had projects in Ploiești and Pitești. we target cities with over 150,000 inhabitants in light of our business model, namely that relates to the development of large communities, sustainable communities at affordable prices. So we have to have the community there for them. So maybe, probably in the near future, we are going to expand towards these cities as well. Another question in relation to the City Hall of Bucharest and the City Hall of Sector 1. Do you envisage an improvement of the relation possibilities to authorize and obtain permits for the road to Greenfield? How do you comment the cancellation of the city planning and the potential to authorize and delays of new projects? So these are issues in Bucharest. This is not only our issue, it's an issue for all developers in Bucharest. The relationship was quite difficult in relation to the Bucharest City Hall ever since the beginning of the mandate of the current local administration. What we succeeded in doing, we approved at least temporarily the opening of the road in relation to the Bucharest Municipal Council, and they are trying to obtain a government decision in this regard, a more permanent one. We accepted this borderline solution so that in the following period we can carry out the proceedings for the definitive permanent opening. How do we comment then the cancellation of the city planning? Of course, it's an abuse. That's what we believe. It's a practice that happens in the industry in Bucharest, and not only. It's an industry that has direct influence on the GDP and on adjacent industries. So you're basically blocking the development of cities in general and implicitly of the economy of the country when acting in this manner. We want to obtain all of the permits, so this is our plan. At least for the following year and a half, we have the capacity required in order to continue the process in terms of construction and without blockages, but it's an issue that is going to continue. So this issue has been going on for 2 years. It's going to have a significant impact on the market in 2 years. The offer side is going to be influenced, and it's going to exert pressure in terms of prices. Prices are going to increase in this regard as per our estimations. And what concerns the delay of new projects such as Area Verde, yes, it's a risk that we have taken over. In an optimal world and market, we should have all the permits in place and all the authorizations in place, but we depend on local entities. But this sector 2 has complied with the law, has issued permits as per the plan that were not challenged by NGOs. So as long as the city planning was valid, it is suspended right now, but we already obtained the city planning certificate that is the basis for future activities. So in theory, at least according to the legal provisions, the approval process should be concluded, and we should be issued a construction permit, a building permit. Another question in the context of development of the road infrastructure around Bucharest, what projects do you envisage in the area in the near future? I don't know what you're referring to. The road infrastructure isn't as developed as it isn't developed. I mean, we've had discussions for a long time about the Greenfield neighborhood. The local administration did not develop the road infrastructure. The infrastructure in Greenfield is developed by us. And we are undergoing efforts to continue our development works. We have 3 projects to improve access to Greenfield that are blocked at the level of the Bucharest City Hall. They are hypocrites. They accuse us that we are trying to carry out expansion of the road near DN1, which is of course against the legal requirements. And another issue relates to Alea Teișanu Road. So we had no support in the development of infrastructure projects that relate to the City Hall of Bucharest that we voluntarily carried out, as I stated. So in addition to this, separately, Bucharest continues to develop despite all of these challenges. There are developments carried out outside of Bucharest, but there is no infrastructure right now. And I believe that the local administration did not understand that development cannot be blocked and they don't understand the fact that when you develop and expand infrastructure outside of Bucharest, you actually help the development of the city. And based on their current actions, they are simply leading to the blockage of infrastructure in the city. So it's an issue in terms of understanding by the local authorities of this phenomenon. They're either not understanding it or just not taking it into account. So the projects will suffer in this regard. And we're not only talking about road infrastructure, we're also talking about utilities infrastructure, where we have certain areas where utilities lack altogether, and we are undergoing a lot of efforts. In Griffin, we concluded the entire infrastructure for the entire project up until the end. This means 15,000 inhabitants that are going to be present in this developed area. It's the size of the city of Sinaia. But here we concluded, we finalized the infrastructure. We had a lot of efforts in terms of financial funds and resources. So we are supporting this infrastructure. And what concerns developments in Bucharest, I think overall life quality will suffer. If there are other questions.
Okay, thank you for your questions and your interest. If there are any other questions, all of the 7 questions have been answered. So if there are no more questions, we will be available. Please check our website. We publish there everything that is of public interest. You have our email addresses for further questions, and we will consider the proposals that you made regarding the reporting the data, and we will introduce these charts also in the next presentation. If there are no other questions, thank you. There is another one? No, it's only thank you. Thank you very much once again, and have a good week. Goodbye.